Well, greetings and welcome to the Dividing Line. My name's James White. That's Rich Pierce hiding behind there, doing things. I don't know what he's doing, but half time it's just to distract me anyways. But we are here on a, is it Tuesday? Yeah, I think it's Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, it's Tuesday. All day. Okay. And half the night. Yes. Not wearing a Qadhi. I just guess we skipped anything even resembling winter this year. Normally we try to book it in for like 2 weeks in January, but it's just not. It's on vacation somewhere because it's. I think I actually saw. Now some of you back east are going to be like, "Oh, give me a break." I actually saw that sometime this week. We are supposed to, at least according to my weather station in my backyard, yes, Friday night, 38 degrees, and a high of 59. So, okay. Yeah, so definitely, it's not going to last. It's going to last, what, 4 days? 4 days before we're back up to the upper 60s and 71 by Wednesday. So, yeah, it's going to get down to 30s, so I guess that's as close as we're going to get, and the days are getting longer, and it's coming again. Those of us that live in Arizona. Want to make sure right up top, friends in the Dallas area, heading your direction, January 30th and 31st, Understanding Islam, a conference for thoughtful Christians. Not for meme-driven Christians, not for those who think like nuclear weapons are the first choice in dealing with certain topics. Remember that? Anybody remember Bob Morey, the late, great Dr. Robert Morey, and his solution for dealing with Islam? I bet you know, if he were around today, he'd have quite the following. He'd have those memes going. He'd have somebody generating those memes, and boy, the grapers would be everywhere. And yeah, that would be, wow, that would be pretty amazing. But anyways, his solution for dealing with Islam was to nuke Mecca, was to drop nuclear weapons on Mecca, and then they couldn't do one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and so the religion would be destroyed. Yeah, we talked about that. We've dealt with that in the past because there were a lot of people like, that sounds like a good idea. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so this is for interesting that this just happened. This is for the conference January 30th and 31st in Flower Mound, which is what, northwest Dallas area, I think. I think that's what I see on the map anyways. It's interesting that I was just saying that right as a tweet from Yasser Qadhi popped up. And it's a short video. And it says, history shows that unchecked hatred, repeated long enough, leads to violence and atrocity. Yeah, I wonder who would disagree with that. Because obviously you then have to make applications. What are we talking about? What's the context? Things like that. But the night before January 30th, that's January 29th, at the mosque next door to the Presbyterian Church where we're having the conference. So they literally share a land border there. So same area. Dr. Qadhi and I will be doing another dialogue like we did a number of years ago. A number of years ago, we did it over 2 nights. So we have less time this time. So things are going to move a little bit faster, be a little bit different along those lines. But Dr. Qadhi is one of the leading Islamic scholars in the United States, and used to be in Memphis, and then has moved to Dallas, involved with Islamic education there. The basically like what a seminary would be within our context, something like that. And we've been trying for years. I drive through Dallas all the time to find a opportunity to do this, and that opportunity has finally presented itself. Though the discussion will be at the mosque, not at the church next door, and the information is on our website at aomin.org. Now, what's interesting is last night I was directed to an anonymous article. There's no byline on it, which immediately tells me exactly who it is. There is someone well known for yellow journalism and disgracing the pastorate and doing all sorts of things like that, who would frequently have staff writer or something like that, rather than just having the guts to say, "Hey, it's me." So we know where this is coming from, and this article appears, I think, is on Substack somewhere. And again, it's the people who just don't seem to understand basic categorical thought. And it was in response, and of course it frames the whole thing all wrong, which, again, this person always does that. It's just who he is. It's how he functions. But dealing with the fact that I'm like objecting to Joel Webbin interviewing Nick Fuentes. Now look, Joel Webbin's not a journalist by any stretch of the imagination. Not even close. So I'm not. That's not even on the table. The issue for me is the man presents himself as a pastor of an ostensibly Reformed church. I'm starting to question all those things. But this is where this is how he has gotten to where he's gotten, is making that kind of a claim. And he's clearly has radically moved in a short period of time, a very short period. Okay, younger people think 5 years is a lifetime. Trust me, it's not. 5 years ago, he was not here. He was not where he is now by any stretch of the imagination. And so he's been going through this radical change, and is now, he's described Nick Fuentes as a political savant and all the rest of this kind of stuff. And now they've done this 10 plus hour interview thing. I guess it's 10 plus hours. I don't know. And I'm just like, does anybody else have any problem whatsoever with platforming someone like Nick Fuentes? And everybody's like, no problem at all. As long as he just leaves the F-bombs out, which he uses all the time on his own program. And as long as he's not talking about all the disgusting stuff about finding a 16-year-old girl and, all this kind of stuff that he talks about on his own program, then all is well. I mean, who knows? Maybe Joel will lead him to Christ, if Joel still believes that Roman Catholicism would require that to even happen. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how long that's going to be the case. I really don't. Hasn't anybody else noticed that the perspective on Rome alters quickly with people who need to have a big audience and who need to create political alliances? All of a sudden, the stuff you used to be preaching on a Sunday, before you got into all this Christless nationalism stuff, starts getting muted for some reason. That Galatians 1 stuff, well, maybe not so much about Rome, I mean, I'm starting to find all these good Roman Catholic friends, and they're on the same line and all the rest of the stuff. And so, anyway, I have just basically said, wow, okay, so once this stuff comes out from behind a paywall And once, the money's been made and the clicks and the platform building and all the rest of that kind of stuff that is the big thing these days. Then, grab the transcripts, throw it at AI, spend 10 minutes, see if there's anything worthwhile even looking at. I don't have any interest in what either one of them has to say. I've lost all respect for Webben as far as church history, theology, anything like that. It's all gone. And I've seen enough of Fuentes to know that even if he came up with a political insight, I figure character and insight somehow need to mesh someplace, and that there has to be people with as much or more insight that can combine it with character. And I'd rather listen to those folks, maybe support those folks in some way. Yeah, that's what I'd rather do. So anyway, okay, what is that? Why is Shaq playing disco on that thing? Someone's sent Nahum O'Brien. Well, Nahum's going through some medical stuff right now, so maybe maybe there's some things going on there. I don't know. But yeah, okay. You can't see a connection either? I got no idea. He's celebrating that the show is on. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. No, it's not. This is actually quite relevant, and I'm glad that this is here. I will share it a little bit later on in the program. So anyway, this article appears, and it's attempting to, in some way, shape, or form, by attacking Yasser Qadhi, as Janet Mefford did years ago, and Steve Camp, and all the rest of these folks, to create some kind of a parallel to the Nick Fuentes situation. Anybody who isn't just completely demented in their thinking recognizes that the reason that I'm dialoguing with Yasser Qadhi is not the reason that Joel Webben is self-promoting himself with Nick Fuentes. I mean, the topics are completely different, the intentions, the purposes, the goals, everything. I mean, it's just astonishing to me. Well, again, these people are writing books about a religion that doesn't exist, Judeo-Christianity. They just make stuff up out of thin air. Just, let's pull this. And I mean, Candace Owens has evidently taken over the Christless nationalism movement with her thinking, where you can just put this together with that. And it's really easy to do it, especially against Muslims. What they do, given the relatively small size of the Islamic academic community in the United States, it's real easy to go, well, Yasser Qadhi is associated with this organization, which has associations with this, and you don't need 6 degrees of separation. 3 degrees of separation. It's going to be really easy to say, and that mosque radicalized this guy, and it's so simple to do. It takes no brains at all, which is why it's being done that way. It's super, super simple to do. And just like years ago, after my first 2 dialogues with Dr. Qadhi, the vast majority of the interaction had nothing to do with what was actually said. People had to go back and put quotes together to help people to see what had actually been said, because they'd too long didn't read, or in that case, too long didn't watch. TLDW, I guess that would be. Same thing's going on here. We don't want to listen to what Dr. Qadhi says, any of his teaching. They're not going to do any of that. These guys have no interest in any of that stuff at all, so they're not going to go there. as I said, after all that brouhaha years ago, was that 2016 or 2018? I don't, man, almost feels like 2016. Just trying to remember what year it was. I pointed out that Christians require that others allow us to define our own faith. So I don't like it when someone holds me accountable for what Pope Francis says or Pope Leo says. I go, he doesn't represent me. And I demand what's that?
It's amazing what AI can tell you. And AI knows that
if it's accurate.
It was January 24th and 25th, 2017.
Okay, so it's right between 16.
And it actually has a summary of what you talked about.
Oh, cool. Was that Grok?
This one is just Google's AI overview.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, so 2017. So, man, we're coming up. Wow, that's 9 years ago. Yikes. Coming up. Yeah, it's going to be exactly 9 years by the time we do the dialogue. That's took us a while to get going again. Anyways, I pointed out at the time, we as Christians demand the right to self-definition. I will not be held accountable for what the Mormon prophet does because he claims to be a Christian. I will not be held accountable to what the Patriarch of Constantinople does or the Pope in Rome. We say, no, that's not my faith. That's something different. We demand that for ourselves. But then we don't allow that for anybody else. So all the Hindus are just the Hindus. And all the Buddhists are just the Buddhists. And big time, all the Muslims are just Muslims. And there's no difference between one Muslim and another Muslim. And if a Muslim goes, well, actually, it's pretty obvious there's difference between the Sunnis and the Shia, and then you throw in Sufism, and then you've got all the different schools of thought and interpretation of the Hadith amongst the Sunni. I suppose there's the same type of thing amongst the Shia as well. But there's lots of differences. And it manifests itself differently depending upon the nation in which you're living. And I've said many, many times, Islam, which is different than a Muslim, Islam as a whole is a religio-political system or a political-religious system, depending on the number of adherents in a particular society, nation, or locale. So when Islam is a small minority, the emphasis is on the religious aspect. Once it reaches a certain percentage of the population, then the political begins to overtake the religious, and the religious takes on more of a political flavor to it. And this is seen over and over again. And it's in my opinion, it's unavoidable given the current understanding within Sunni Islam, which is 85 to 90% of the world's Muslims are Sunni. Largest Muslim nation in the world is Indonesia, by the way, not Saudi Arabia or Egypt or anything like that. Largest Muslim population is Indonesia. And they're Sunni, mainly. But you have variations in how the faith is applied from culture to culture, from place to place, and from individual to individual, just as you have amongst Christians. And it's amazing when Christians will, on the one hand, say, hey, I'm responsible for what I believe, and I will not be held accountable for what somebody over here does. So a Christian goes and does something crazy. And we're all like, hey, don't blame me. That's not my faith. But a Muslim goes and does something crazy, and every Muslim on the planet is accountable for what that other Muslim did. Is that even semi-fair or defensible? Well, I have long discovered that you can't even ask that question for a lot of people who call themselves Christians, whose hearts are filled with animosity and hatred. My brother got killed in Iraq by Muslims, and therefore I hate the Muslims. I've heard that. I've heard it over and over again. And it's like, I'd like to hope that maybe in a sermon someday, the Spirit would move upon someone's heart in such a way for them to go, man, the Apostle Paul, he was persecuted by the Jews, and he had persecuted the Christians as a Jew. He was there when Stephen was martyred, and there were obviously other martyrdoms other than that, and yet Paul can actually say he could wish himself to be anathema from Christ for the sake of the Jews, his brothers according to the flesh. And so he didn't let the institutional actions of the Jewish people create in him a detestation of individual Jews. He recognized that God had his elect even amongst those individual, even amongst the persecuting. He was a persecutor. How could he have come to any other conclusion than even when the Jews were persecuting Christians and putting them to death? What does he say? I endure all things, what? For the sake of the elect. For the sake of the elect. And so that has to be our attitude here as well. But man, how many Christians have that attitude? How many Christians even try to make that application? So remove this follower, remove, and blah, and goodbye. I have such a wonderfully epic block list that most of the time my feed is actually quiet and enjoyable and stuff like that, because the jerks show themselves early on and you just get rid of them and you go from there. So anyway, so go to aomin.org. Right on the front page, you will get the information about the dialogue with Dr. Qadhi. It will be respectful. It will be helpful, I think, Lord willing. And then the conference Friday and Saturday, preaching at the church on Sunday. There in Flower Mound. I guess it's in Flower Mound, Texas. I don't know the area, sorry. I mean, I know the freeway fairly well. And I'll be staying in a new RV park, so I'll find my way there too eventually. But that is coming up just in a matter of weeks. So if you're in that area, make plans. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do that. Now, back to some of the other issues that have come up here, and then I want to talk a little bit about some current events. Eschatology Matters posted a comment a couple days ago that really caught me by surprise. Did I ever get a response to that one? Nope, of course not. I almost never do. Eschatology Matters on January 3rd posted, it's remarkable to hear defenses of mining truth from the Talmud from the same voices who said months ago that learning from Aquinas meant abandoning the faith. And one of the things bugs me a little bit, what are these voices? Who was saying this? What was the context? Et cetera, et cetera. Now, the only person who said anything about mining truth from the Talmud is Doug Wilson. So I had not watched any of the Amfest stuff, or I know it was right here in Phoenix, but it's just not my thing. Never has been. And so I eventually asked during the last program, I think, and was provided a section from the dialogue. And it must be this. This must be what is being referred to. So I guess this was the discussion between Doug Wilson and Steve Deese, which I think was all of 30 minutes long, something like that. This must be the section. The second thing is you have to realize that the Talmud was a collection of writings over the course of 800 years. And it's as though you have someone gathered up all the issues of Cosmopolitan magazine over 800 years. And then you said, the Talmud says, Cosmopolitan says. Well, which rabbi, which time, which century? There are some, if you get my book, American Milk and Honey, there are some horrific things in the Talmud. There are also things in the Talmud that are pure exegetical gold. That must be it, right? So you're talking about centuries, and you can't just say one thing, the Talmud. That's too simplistic. I don't mind condemning the things in the Talmud that attack Jesus Christ or attack Christians. I'm a Christian, so I reject that. And whoever did that shouldn't have done that. But there are also things that I have personally learned from the Talmud that are just wonderful insights into Scripture. So that must be it. Okay? So like I said, I wasn't there, didn't watch the thing. Sorry, Doug, but I've not read American Milk and Honey either. Maybe I'll have to do that at some point in time, but not on the calendar right now. So I responded to, Dale Ford then commented on Eschatology Matters and said, inconsistency is the sign of a failed argument. Dr. James R. White, amazing amount of blindness on his part that he can't even see this. Now, Dale didn't bother to tell us who the he is. So is the he Doug or is the he me? I don't know. I've never told anybody that I have ever gained an exegetical insight from the Talmud. From my perspective, the only way that there could be anything exegetically there's two ways there could be something exegetically of value in the Talmud, and it would be limited to the Mishnah. And again, Mishnah, the traditions of Tannaitic Judaism, Second Temple Judaism, collected 250, 300 years after the destruction of the temple. And then the Gemara, the sayings, which are the commentaries over the next, many centuries, finally come together into what's generally identified as you've got the Babylonian Talmud, and there's different versions and variations and stuff like that. But the two ways that I could see that there would be any type of gold to be mined from the Talmud at all, exegetically, there would be assistance in understanding the traditions of the Jews in the Gospels, and maybe in one or two places in Paul, that you could get, again, from the Mishnah, not from, I can't see how the Gemara would be relevant. So, and that is helpful. Tractate of both and its discussion of the Korban rule. I think that's important, but that's more of an external verification of what the New Testament tells us, and it gives us, here's another historical source that says, they had this tradition, this is how they made application, but that's still even a couple hundred years after. There may have been changes, and you have to be really, really careful with that information. But as to exegetical insights, I suppose there could be some tradition, and only in exegesis of the Old Testament. There wouldn't be any exegetical. The New Testament stuff would be the background issues, the tradition and stuff. Maybe in the Old Testament there might be something in that context. So once I saw this, just a few minutes ago, 33 minutes ago, I there's a Signal group that Doug and I are both a part of, along with other folks. And I said, so Douglas, could you give an example of exegetical gold in the Talmud? Everyone is still hammering away on that. Have you addressed it? And this was his response. I hope he doesn't mind my saying this. Yes, I have addressed it, but am serenely ignored. The example I had in mind was the argument laid out by David Mitchell in Messiah ben Joseph. Beyond wonderful, he also has another great book steeped in Jewish writings called Jesus, Incarnation of the Word. The great thing about the Talmudic gold I was referring to is that it overthrows Jewish unbelief. Okay, I don't know the books. I can't comment on what that means, but I'm assuming from what Doug is saying here is that he has made that clear and is being serenely ignored. So in other words, and look, given the people running around, the Jews did this, Jews did that, the Jews are behind everything. Again, the Candace Owens Christless Nationalists, they're only going to hammer away on what they want to hammer away on. They're not going to listen even if he goes, well, here's my example. Well, that's not a good example, and you're promoting the Talmud and whatever. I'd like to find out sort of what that's about. Maybe maybe I can grab Doug's book and do a quick search in Kindle, pull something up, take a look at it. But nobody is running around saying Talmudic Judaism is great. This is awesome. We just all need to start taking classes in this or something. Nobody's doing that. There is no such thing as Judeo-Christianity. It's not a heresy. It doesn't even exist. I mean, it really, everybody used to know when you use the term Judeo-Christian, it was a descriptor of it's like a Venn diagram, okay? And where you have Christian morals and ethics, Jewish morals and ethics, and even then, the interface was not Talmudic Judaism. It was, at least at the worst, Second Temple Judaism, and for most people, at least in my seminary education, it was Judaism as represented by the Tanakh, by the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. So there is that intersection that we're both monotheists, okay? We both believe in marriage between a man and a woman, okay? Are you going to deny that these are that these are places of agreement? So if the Talmud says the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and the Bible says the same thing, you're going to go, that's no, you're promoting the Talmud if you say that. I'm just trying to figure out what happened to rationality, and I can't figure out where it went. It do be gone someplace. Someone left the front gate open for some reason. Oh, okay. All right. Just checking. Leave that open, and weird things happen. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad you're able to see that now too. So if I have time, I don't know if I have time. Like I said, speaking, doing the thing with Yasser Qadhi. The next weekend, I'm debating a Unitarian. It's only 90 minutes long. I can tell you exactly how that's going to go right now. I think he could tell you exactly how it's going to go right now. And I have a feeling that he will probably agree with me that in 90 minutes, we're just going to define our positions, and that's all there's going to be. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but I just have the feeling that fundamentally it may, depending on how we get along, depending on how it goes, it may make it possible to do more in-depth stuff in the future. But given the broadness of the topic and the teeny tiny length of the actual debate, yeah, that's going to be tough. But So I've got this stuff coming up real fast, and there's just only so much time for everything, and we'll have to go from there. So anyway, that's the mining gold from the Talmud thing. So prayers for the trip, safety. I'm really looking forward to it. I should be picking up the RV fairly soon. Did you hear anything today? Not yet? Okay. Every trip, there's either something to be repaired or we come up with a way of improving things. And, I haven't looked at the long-term weather forecast, but to be honest with you, that would be worthless right now this far out anyways. Last year at this time, it was frigid cold in February. Remember that? We even skipped pulling the RV. Well, I know. Yeah, well, but that really wasn't a big deal. That could have been fixed pretty quickly. We just decided not to take it because we didn't want it freezing and stuff. Well, we're going one way or the other this time, and we'll see if it's cold this time out. I've got to be prepared for it. If it's not, big deal, But like it should arrive today or tomorrow. One thing I wish I'd had on the last trip. A little bit of RV advice for you all. They actually make electrically heated bib covers. So when you hook up, I already have a big, heavy, blue, electrically heated hose, which you have to have. And it hooks up inside, fairly close to the furnace, so it's not going to freeze in there. But it's the connection to the thing outside that is the issue. Well, they have electrically heated covers that once you hook up, you put this thing over that thing and you plug it in, and it keeps the whole thing from freezing up. And I had just a cover type that would sort of use the heat from the hose a little bit, but this one will actually heat itself, and so now I'll have that in the RV. See? First time I took an RV out, I didn't know where to put the sewer hose. I didn't know what a sewer drop looked like. Now, hey, we're just a source of all sorts of cool information for you that you can go do those things. So anyway, sorry about that. Let's see here. All right, just briefly looking at some of the some stuff that just happened recently. I guess the theory is running around right now, and Tucker Carlson, I guess, is repeating it, that the reason that Trump took out Nicolas Maduro was because the Venezuelans had outlawed gay marriage. And so the United States wants Venezuela to have gay marriage. And that's why they took out Nicolas Maduro. Now look, this nation has a tremendous amount to answer for in its promotion of the LGBTQ movement around the world, abortion around the world. I mean, what happened during the Obama administration, what happened during the Biden regime around the world is just depressingly sick. Evil, seeing the LGBTQ flag flying underneath the American flag at U.S. embassies. So there is no question that there is still, I'm sure, a major part of the United States governmental system manned by men and women who want to use your tax dollars and your children's tax dollars and your grandchildren's tax dollars to promote perversity around the world. Okay. That's not an issue. That's a given. That's a fact. But as soon as this happened, I read this sane, documented, non-wild-eyed article on the defense of the U.S. petrodollar. That trading oil in dollars is vital to the American economy and vital to American economic dominance around the world. And that's why China is doing everything it can to break that monopoly and trade oil in their own currency. So that's a huge battle going on that a lot of people know about. It's not like it's hidden, but not a lot of people even know how important it is. I mean, we're starting to come to realize, honestly, that if we didn't have so much corruption in our governmental system, we might actually not be in debt. What portion of that $40+ trillion has just flown out the door to buy influence and votes and went to Somalia and never provided a single child daycare moment at all? It's a good question. But anyway, so I read this article and it goes through how historically people start questioning the U.S. control of the oil supply around the world, the petrodollar, and all of a sudden regime change takes place. Just poof, overnight, they're gone, and somebody else is there who's now very friendly toward the United States. I mean, Venezuela's got more oil than anybody else has. I mean, they're just sitting on huge deposits. And so it certainly seems to me there's going to be a puppet regime put in there. And basically, American companies are going to control. Well, I think American companies actually did the drilling and stuff initially anyways. And then socialism took all that over and took it from them. So maybe they'll get at least their investment back, but they'll get more than that. But anyway, I'm sitting here looking at this and gay marriage? Okay, if the next national election swings back left, then undoubtedly there'll be pressure put upon Venezuela to do that kind of thing. Yeah, that's when you elect communists. I mean, everybody's freaking out now. Have you watched this? Everybody's freaking out about the rental housing director chick that Mamdani has put in place in New York. And she's just sitting there being a Marxist. And she's sitting there saying that home ownership is racist and colonial and stuff like that. I mean, they're going to start taking people's private property. They don't believe, communism does not believe in private property. Okay? And everybody knew this. At least you could have known it if you wanted to. Mamdani is a communist. And he's putting communists in place in New York. And this is communism. The state is God. The state owns everything. The state gets to do whatever the state wants to do. This is communism. And you have communists all over the United States now. This isn't the Red Scare. This is the Red Invasion. Okay? People, you may remember, back in the olden days, the 50s, the Red Scare. All you had to do is accuse somebody of being a communist, and everybody was so scared of the communists. Well, they used that to create the opposite reaction. So that once communism failed, and the wall fell, and the USSR collapsed, they just packed up their bags and became professors at your local university. And now they're going to do it here. And they are succeeding. Because our people don't understand history. Don't have any interest in understanding history at all. And so we're just repeating it over and over and over again. And a social democrat, or a democratic socialist is a communist who takes power by using benighted, stupid voters, or corrupted voters, or just stolen elections. They just do it without a gun. Then they get the gun and stay in power as a communist. That's how it works. But anyway, back to Maduro. One of the things that struck me, I don't think Tucker Carlson's onto anything there, though I'll admit, again, if the elections swing left, sure they do the next. Can you imagine a Newsom regime? I mean, it would make Biden look like the comatose old man that he was. I mean, they'd be pushing this stuff everywhere. So yeah, that could happen, but that's the petrodollar. That's if there's a reason for it. But what are we being told? This is where again I just think as a debater, even if you sit here and go, man, that narco-terrorism, we've been taking those boats out. Man, we've got the tech to just boom, blow them out of the water. Wow, that's really cool. And love watching those FLIR videos and blah, 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 blah. Okay. You do realize that when a guy is in charge that you sort of like, or at least like some of the things he does, then, well, that's really cool, Wow, take those narco-terrorists out. Have you thought about what it's like to blame the supplier rather than the purchaser? I mean, okay, look, fentanyl comes through Canada, it comes through Mexico. Where does it come from? Mainly China. Mainly from China. Well, they're putting dangerous drugs on the street. If we weren't buying it, there wouldn't need to be a supply of it, would there? I mean, has anyone stopped to go, we're the ones with the problem. We're the ones that now literally have the Walking Dead. We have walkers. Have you seen them? There's videos of them all over the place. And if you never watched The Walking Dead, then you don't know what I'm talking about. But we have walkers. It's so sad to see. And I'll see them at street corners here in Phoenix, where they're sort of bent over and they're just staring at the ground. And they sort of take a few steps and then they turn another way and then they take a few steps and they're gone. There's nobody there. I think the term that is used in addiction context is shot out. Once you finally hit that last overdose and there's just nobody home. There's nothing left to fix. And we have walkers all over the place now. How'd they get there? Well, glorifying drug use, having the opening of the borders was meant to completely change the nature of the electorate, completely change the nature of the political system, and to absolutely corrupt the American people. There is no question about the fact that TikTok in China is completely different than TikTok in the United States. There are filters and standards on TikTok in China because even the communists recognize you can't have your people corrupted on that basic level. Here in the United States, whatever goes. And that's why it's here. It's to corrupt us. We cannot, everybody's going, man, did you see this, man? We were down there for like 55 minutes. We got Maduro, and man, we took out all of his guards, man. Just we're in. Oh wow, our military is great. Yeah, how long can we sustain that? That requires a lot of infrastructure, and that requires education. That requires engineers, and our educational system is dead. It's been taken over. It's destroyed. So I just sit here, and that's why I see these kids, and they're children. These men, some of them are pastors, online. I can't tell you how many times recently I've written a response to something on X, and I sat back and I read it, and I took a few seconds, and I deleted it. Some of them were classic replies. They were really good. You have to trust me on that. I said, nah, not going to do it. Because the Christless nationalist, and let me explain again, because I'm going to use that term from now on, because it is perfectly descriptive. When I say they call themselves Christian nationalists, and I say they are Christless nationalists. And what I mean by that is they do not believe that there needs to be a change, a spirit-brought change to the very heart and soul of a people that would make them amenable to the rulership of Christ. Christless nationalism is sacralism, and they can mock it all they want. All they're doing when they mock it is proving that they haven't a clue what on earth they're battling about. That their understanding of history and scripture is as deep as a meme. And that when you try to respond to them, they go, TLDR, too long, didn't read. Because they have no attention span. And so when Stephen Wolfe presents sacralism, and he started off 2026 saying, I'm going to sacral even harder this year. When you present the idea of a Christian nation without Christ at the center, without regeneration, when you talk about a nation of rebel sinners that have to say Christ is king without knowing how Christ is king, that's Christless nationalism. It's sacralism. We already tried it. It took a reformation to get out from underneath it. But now, for some benighted reason, people are like, well, that's what we need to do again. It just wasn't work. We just didn't try it right the first time. It's the same thing the communists say, you know. We just need to work at it better. Yeah, we had 1,000 years at it, but they were a rough 1,000 years. The Middle Ages were in there. Come on, give us a break. So this Christless nationalism, because again, blessed is a nation whose God is Yahweh. Sin is a rebuke to any people. Okay, those are biblical truths. All right? So if Christian nationalism is just simply a recognition that any nation that wants to be blessed of God needs to seek his law and his ways, great. That's not what these people are about. Has nothing to do with what these people are about. They mock the idea. Now, some of them didn't initially, but now that they need to get their platforms built and the bills paid and, get to the big conferences, now all of a sudden, theology is malleable. Let's just put it that way for many of these guys. And it'll remain malleable. You just watch where these guys are 10 years from now. You just watch. Now, how many people even think about stuff from 10 years ago? I can't believe how many people are again sitting around going, well, give the state the power to, it's a good thing. Well, Webben, blaspheming Christ will be against the law coming soon. Coming soon. And I just go, y'all remember 2021? That was barely five years ago, when the state decided it could criminalize speech and tried to do so, what you could say and couldn't say, and they got the social media platforms to boot a lot of us and ban a lot of us and not allow you to talk about things. And we've now discovered that everything you couldn't talk about was what was actually going on, what they were actually doing behind the scenes. Now we know that, thanks to Elon Musk buying X, anyways. But you didn't like when the state did that back then, but you're going to like it when it's your guys doing it? You don't realize that once you give that power, they're never going to give it back, and it could be used against you. You don't think about these things? Because if the state gets to define blasphemy, and it's no longer God's law that's determining this, and you don't actually have Christians running it, then the state's going to determine that what you believe is blasphemy. And they might outlaw that. And what are you going to do when that happens? What are you going to do then? Well, it's better than what we've got now. Really? You don't have it, so how do you know that it's better? You haven't seen how it could be applied and how it could be applied to you. Interesting how people just jump on these bandwagons and they run with stuff. They do not give it a second thought as to whether they're being consistent, what this would mean to them. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. So, anyway, there's oh, okay. I was one of the pastors of one of the churches. I will be at, I should mention this because I don't think it's on the website. I've mentioned it, but I don't think we've actually put it on the website. I'm pretty sure it's Salem Reformed Baptist Church. And I will be, there we go. I will be preaching there on February 8th. And that is northwest Livingston, Louisiana, generally, I think. I haven't been there. It's the new church after the split, and all the stuff that went on down there and all that nastiness and things like that. What?
I was just going to kind of grab onto the coattails of what you were saying earlier. You know, it strikes me, these guys keep proclaiming Christian nationalism while decrying the Holocaust account. And I keep thinking, but wait a minute. That would involve a valuing God's law. And God's law is very specific as to what it takes to obtain truth in court, right? What the standard for that is. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, right? Right. And when you actually go back, again, there seems to be a disconnect from all of what happened then and the testimonies that were there.
Right.
If you go back and you look at the testimonies that were sworn in court as to what was observed, what happened, the things that were testified to, even by Germans, that by far and away is held up by God's law. But they dismiss it, they laugh at it, and that just, to me, it exposes their real motivation. You aren't interested in any kind of Christian nationalism. You're interested in a supremacist nationalism that picks out people groups and hates them.
There is no logical connection between Christian nationalism as a concept and the Jews did it all stuff. There isn't. The reason I think this has happened is these people are desperate to tap into any kind of movement that will give them more followers. They need followers. I mean, the potential pool of neo-Nazis is not all that big. And I think that's one of the reasons that the Stonechoir guys are so angry with Webben and the other guys. I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah, they're stealing their audience.
They're stealing their audience.
Yeah.
And that it's a small possible pool of followers.
Very small kiddie pool. No,
it's a kiddie pool. It really is a kiddie pool of possible neo-Nazis. But they're just like, get out of we've had this forever.
Yeah.
You're stealing our stuff. And I think that's why they're so angry with them.
But history has shown that being able to target particular groups with hate it garners and gathers attention.
It works.
And I believe, again, all of this is wag the dog, folks. And if you don't know what that means, you need to look it up. Because the question isn't the circumstance politically of the fact that the dog is wagging the tail. What happens when the tail can wag the dog?
Yeah.
And that's what all of this is about.
Yeah. Well, that's true on a lot of levels. But anyway, okay. Yeah, it looks like pretty much everything there. Okay, don't forget, go to aomin.org. Is that on the app too?
The calendar?
Yes.
It needs work. And if you haven't really been privy to what I've been doing the last couple of days, we have a Dom, and
Yes.
Dom is taking over our social media projects, taking care of a lot of things that have been falling through the cracks that I'm, oh, gee, there was a debate 2 weeks ago. I should probably post that on the calendar. Yeah. So he's going to be leading the way and communicating that kind of stuff. I've linked him to all the different accounts, and he's hooking them all up to the website and making it streamlined. But he's going to be also taking care of the app and getting all that out there. If it's not out there now, it will be.
Okay. And do you think that by Thursday we'll be able to make the announcement about the big debate this year?
I think so. I've been getting texts about meetings that they wanted to take place and they didn't get them, so it's been postponed. And they're just checking with various people and parties, and there may actually be a conflict with the date yet. I'm trying to figure out what that is about. So that's all getting ironed out. I'm really hoping to be able to say yes to that on Thursday.
Okay.
So
yeah. All right, let's hope so. I'd like to get a graphic, but man, with Imagine and all that kind of stuff, you can pop graphics out pretty fast.
Well, I think we already have a graphic ready for it. No, maybe no. No, I'm thinking of the Qadhi. We got that up there. And even in that scenario, we're trying to reach out to the Islamic Center because they haven't actually updated their website. So they probably have the same problem I do.
Well, or Apologia has with its website. So anyway. All right. Okay, so hopefully we'll have some big news for you, maybe on Thursday about the debate. I kept saying next year, but it's actually already this year, coming at me like a freight train, and it's exciting for me. Hopefully, I'll be able to explain to you why it should be exciting to you as well. We will see. Anyways, thanks for watching the program today. We'll see you next time.